Hello and welcome to Mission West Virginia, brought to you by the West Virginia Library Television Network and Mission West Virginia. I'm your host, Rachel Kinder, Director of the Frameworks Program at Mission West Virginia. Today's show guest is Cheryl Salamanca, Mission West Virginia Adoption Exchange Developer and my coworker. Welcome and thanks for coming to talk with us today.
Thanks for letting me come and talk about the Adoption Resource Exchange.
We are excited about this project. You and I have been working on this for quite some time. But before we get into that, could you just introduce yourself to our audience? Tell us a little bit about your background, what your degree is in, all of that.
Sure. I have a Bachelor's of Social Work from West Virginia State University, and I began my career with the Department of Human Services, it's now called, and I was with them over 26 years. I started out as a permanency planner, which would now be an adoption worker, but they didn't have them at the time. And my role there in that position was to find families for kids that were state wards. And from there, I had probably most every social service position that you could have in the department. And I retired. When I retired as the regional director for Region 2.
Okay, and we worked together some when you were the RD there.
Yes. And then when I retired, I didn't really retire. I wasn't ready to stay home. And I found a wonderful opportunity at Mission West Virginia. When I left the department, I was very aware of the crisis of finding foster homes, and I saw the opportunity with Mission West Virginia to be the liaison and help families become certified through agencies, and that sounded very appealing to me. So I came to Mission West Virginia for what I thought would be 2 years, and I'm on year 6. So
we tend to hang on to people, and that is our role, is to work with families who want to be foster or adopt, and you spent about 5 years doing that. Yep. And then, so then we kind of created this project because we saw a need and kind of made a good case for us being the right people to run the Adoption Resource Exchange, which you'll hear us call the ARE for succinctness. Can you tell our audience about that?
Yes. The Adoption Resource Exchange is a website with it is a listing of children that are adoption eligible, and it's a means for families to find out about those kids and see if they are interested in learning more about them and seeing maybe there'll be a possibility to be a part of their family. And the website has lots of information for families. Of course, the youth are there, so you can see the youth and find out about them, but there's also resources so they can find out more about adoption in general and see if it's a right step for them. And
the department, DHHR, now DOHS, had this website in existence before, right?
Yes, they had a site. It was called the Adoption Resource Network. And it was also a photo listing with some information about the kids in care, but it hadn't been really active for some time, and we saw that need, and you put a lot of work into that.
We did. We thought we were in a good position to update it because the department had some technological barriers, and as an independent agency, we kind of had some freedom to have a new website built. So we kind of did a soft launch a couple months ago, right? And what you were viewing on the screen there is photo listings of children who are adoption eligible. Those were kind of scrolled through on the screen. So if those children are listed, can you tell our audience what adoption eligible means?
Yes, that means if youth are on the Adoption Resource Exchange, it means that they are adoption eligible. And to be listed on there, they would need to be, their parental rights have been terminated, and they're what will be called a state ward, a ward of the state. And also, the youth would have consented to adoption and consented to being on the Adoption Resource Exchange.
Correct, and I know that that was a big goal of yours, is to make this a very youth-centered page. So our audience may notice not every child has their photo shown, right?
Correct. We actually had what was called a media consent that went a little further than what the department had did in the past, and every youth that is eligible to be listed has the opportunity to review that consent And if they're 12 and older, they have to sign it. But we really recommend workers go over it with kids 10 and older if they're functioning at that level. And it lets them know all the recruitment activities we do at Mission West Virginia, not just the Adoption Resource Exchange. And then they can indicate which recruitment activities they're interested in, whether they want their photo on the website. And we really value and respect their what they want,
Right.
and the whole process is really about them. I encourage workers that when they review the listing for the youth to let the youth look at it too and make sure they're comfortable, and if they want to make any changes, we do that, and they should be in control of their listing.
Absolutely. And alongside those photos, there are narratives.
Yes.
And a lot of times kids are writing those or supplying the information for those.
They do. There's a couple of kids that the entire narrative, the kids, they wrote their own narrative, and it's just exciting to see those kids and that they understand and know what they want in a family. There's very few narratives on that website that don't have input from the youth on what they want in a family, which is really important. So. And we include that in the narrative. The narrative talks about their interests, what they like to do, and again, what they're looking at for a family.
And, you know, some kids may have specifics. I want to live in the country. I want to live somewhere busier. But a lot of these kids are pretty open to, they just want a family, right?
They just want a family. And so many of them, their statement is they want a family that supports them and what their interests are. And whether it be hiking with them or playing video games or just supporting them in what they like to do and saying they want to be a part of a family. I know we had one youth that says he wants to be a part of a community, not just a family, and he wants his family to help him be a part of the community. So,
wow. That's great. And, you know, tell our audience, this is not a new concept, and we're not the only state doing this, right?
No, you know, I was very aware of the department's previous website, but we wanted to make sure that we were following the national trends and we want it to be the best of the best. So I did a lot of research with other states. I did a lot of consultation with Adopt Us Kids, who are the national experts.
Right.
And so every step of the way, everything on that website, we didn't just decide we wanted to do it that way. It was with a lot of research and a lot of consultation with others.
It sure was. It was a long process. So say I'm a family, and family I could mean couple with kids, couple without kids, a single person, just someone who thinks they might want to adopt. And I'm visiting the website and say I see a youth that I think might be a good fit for my family. What would I do then?
Okay, it depends on whether the family is already a certified foster adoptive family.
Right, okay.
So if they're looking on the website and they see a youth that they want to learn more about, but they're not yet certified, there's a place where they inquire, and then it will lead them to the Mission West Virginia's website, and then our liaison will help them get certified. And then once they're certified, that person would kick them back to me, and we can help them find out more about the youth that they're interested in. But if they're already certified, there is a place for them to register,
which I think we're looking at now, right there.
There's actually a couple places for them to register, but that is one. And so they register, and that provides all the information about their family, demographics, and you know what they're looking for in a youth to add to their family. And it also lists their provider, you know, who they were certified with.
Who their agency is.
Yes. Yeah. And then, so they register, and then if they find a child that they really want to inquire about, they can go to that Waiting Youth page. If we can take a look at the Waiting Youth page.
Yeah, so the Waiting Youth page is the page that lists the photo listings. There it is. So I can go to an individual child's listing, right? And then there's, depending on which child you click on, you know, there.
Yes, very good. It says that you know, inquire about that child and learn more. There's a fair amount of information about their interest and what they're looking for in a family right there in that narrative that they're looking at. And then when you inquire, it sends a notification to us that they're interested in that youth, and then I pass that information, inquiry information, on to the family's worker that is their current worker that certified them, and then the worker of the youth.
Okay, because you're not either person's worker. You're not the family's
Correct.
worker, and you're not
Correct.
the child's worker.
That's right. So then what would happen next is I send that information into those two workers, and then the two workers communicate. You know, the youth worker would share their information about the child. The family's information would share the information about the family and what they, what their interests were in ages and make sure it would be a fit into their family. And if they believe they will, then they would follow next steps so that the family could talk to the child, maybe through a Zoom call, or would be the first contact, and then meet them.
Yeah.
If both the youth and the family are interested.
And that's pretty special when you get to be a part of that. So I think our audience has probably seen as we scroll through the photos, there's no babies on this website.
There are not. Most of the children on the website are older youth or sibling groups. And that is because, you know, when children are in foster care, either they're usually returned or they go with family members.
Right.
But those older children and the sibling groups are a true need. Those are youth that are really waiting and needing a family. So most of the kids that you see on the website will be older kids.
And these kids could have been waiting for even a few years, right?
Yes, unfortunately they could have.
But we're hoping to see some change in that. Now that we have this site, we're hoping to bring attention to these youth earlier so that they wait less time. And the next question I'm going to ask you is kind of funny to me because this number is changing all the time. Right now, there are how many youth on the website?
We have, as of today, I had one on this morning, we have 33 youth on the website.
Which, when we wrote out our questions, was 32. And anytime our director asks how many kids are listed, I have to get up and look because we're adding kids every day because we kind of started from scratch with looking out to the state and who needs to be on this website now.
Right. And those referrals actually come from the department worker of the youth.
Right.
They send the information to me they send me a photo and a narrative about them and the consent that we talked about earlier.
So important.
Yes, and then I can upload them onto our website for families to see.
So we don't do this without the consent of the department, and they're the ones who ensure, like, yes, these children are adoption eligible. These are children who, unfortunately, were not able to reunify with their families of origin.
Yes.
And how many youth do you anticipate having on the website?
Well, we had a figure of 180.
Right.
I believe, but that is an ever-changing figure
Every day.
because what we'll find out is youth that I thought should be on there, maybe they found a home already, which is a wonderful reason to not be.
Great problem.
That's right. And also workers' caseloads are always evolving, so that would change. But you know, I'm adding new youth to the website every week. Week. And you'll notice if families look on the website on that waiting page, the first time they get on there, there's a little pop-up that says, hey, every week I'm adding youth, so make sure you stop by and see, you know, because there'll be other kids on here next week.
And I think one of our next steps is to promote this a little bit more to the public, educate the public on how this works, what this is, what our goals are as we continue to build it. And another section that I hope we can click on is there's a resources tab, right?
Yes.
And tell me what's on that might be helpful to a family.
Okay. Well, before we talk about the family piece, I'd like to talk about, there's actually two sections on the resource screen.
Okay.
And one is for the youth because
that's right.
it is centered, this is all about the youth, and we wanted them to understand how this works for them. And so they can go to this website. Their workers are encouraged to go to this website with them and show them this resource screen. It has a youth-friendly explanation of what the Adoption Resource Exchange is and what the process is. It has a copy of the consent there. And it also has a questionnaire form because when we write that narrative, a lot of times I help staff or write the narratives.
Right.
And we really want, what does that youth want said in that narrative. So that questionnaire gives them the opportunity to express what they want their narrative to say. So those are some things on the youth's resource page that I'm really proud that we did that. And then there's the family resource page, and that has some of the trainings that we do at Mission West Virginia.
That's right, we do a lot of webinars.
And it has the future ones, plus it has a link to the archives webinars too. So that's pretty good. And it has a link to our resource library.
That's really handy for families.
We do have a free lending library for families at Mission West Virginia. It has resources, books and DVDs about parenting, adopting, fostering, several shelves on relative kinship.
Right, which is very big in West Virginia. What was the statistic we just saw?
West Virginia is the second in the United States on doing relative placements.
And it's over 50%.
Over 50% of our youth that are removed from their home, if they don't go back to their home, they're in relative placements. And that's just, you know, they're still connected with family.
Yeah.
That's just a really good, you know, it's a number, but that's something, that's a lot of hard work that the departments went into.
It is.
And to keep those connections with those youth, with their family. So that's
really commendable, I think, for our state, and also really shows how connected with our culture that is that we take care of our kids within our families whenever we can. So you and I are both licensed social workers,
Yes.
or social workers by degree, and we had a lot of back and forth about how do we feel about putting photos of kids online.
Yes.
And I'm sure that people who see the website will have varied feelings on that too. So can you
Yes.
talk a little bit about why that is done? And it's done nationally.
Sure. Yeah, we like when we looked at the old DHS's website, you know, the pictures were there, but we did want to make sure, again, is this what we want to continue to do? When we do
Right.
this website, is this what we want to do? Is this in the best interest of the youth? And I talked to many states, if not, I mean, I've just talked to so many states. We talked to Adopt Us Kids again, and the consensus was, you know, some public exposure of these kids is much better if we can help find them a family than for them to remain in a situation where they don't have a family connection. So
And-
that is why we, yes.
And age out.
Yes.
Age out of foster care. Potentially at 18, some children, youth do choose to stay in longer to take advantage of some services, but there are plenty of kids that the day they turn 18, they leave the system. And the statistics on kids who age out of foster care are not good.
Right.
So we really felt like we wanted to do what we can to prevent that, even if it means a little bit of exposure.
And again, it's with the youth's consent.
Right.
You'll note if families look on that website, they'll notice that there are, I think, 3, instead of a picture being there, it's the Mission West Virginia logo.
Right.
And it's because that youth decided that they really just didn't want their photo on the website. Either they didn't want their peers to see them or just family situations. There's reasons why they didn't want them on there. And it was hard. I mean, they're good-looking kids, and you know, you want families to see them, but it's what the youth want and what they think is best for them, and we honor that.
Right, and we will continue to do that. So let's see, what else do we... One of the things probably to mention is that one of the first steps was that you really took this out to the field. And how many visits do you think you made to DOHS
goodness.
offices?
I think probably 23. I went to every DHS district office in the state, and I informed them of what, you know, the Adoption Resource Exchange was going to be, and we did some training on how they would refer the youth to the website and to me to get them on the website. And they had the ability to ask any questions that they had, and we handed them out flow charts, exactly how to do to make a referral, and flow charts what happens when a family inquires, because there is policy. You know, the
Right.
department has a adoption policy on how to do this, and we want to make sure we follow the department's policy and
Right.
and make sure that we can make sure the staff are too. So we wanted to educate them on that. So, yeah, that was quite quite a journey, but it was good to see those district staff had missed there being a place to highlight their youth that needed a family. So they were very excited that there was going to be a new website and to get their youth on there. So,
and then I think next, and you're kind of in the midst of this, is working with the private foster care adoption agencies.
Yes, I've worked with a couple of the agencies already, talking to them about how the ARE works. Plus, some of them, these families, they will be their providers. So we want them to understand how it works and how they can help their family. And just in some of the providers like that I've talked to and hope to continue to talk to, some additional ones are where the youth are maybe not in a family situation, and they've actually helped with the photos and the narratives of those youth.
Which is so helpful, because
yes.
it's a big state to try to obtain those things in person.
So this, it's a partnership with the department in Mission, West Virginia to have the website, but it's also stakeholders in the community that work with these youth. We've all worked together to make sure that we have a good posting for the youth.
And Aetna.
Yes.
We had quite a few Aetna workers on a meeting the other day.
Yes, I did a Zoom meeting with Aetna, and I thought there were going to be like 110, and when I looked up in the corner, it was like over 200, and I was like, oh, wow. But yes, and they have been very helpful. They do staffings twice a month, actually, with the child placing agencies and with Aetna, and with some staff from Marshall University's program.
That's right.
And so they're staffing those youth, and that's another way I can be aware of what youth need to be posted. And then we all work together to gather that information. So they have been very helpful.
They have been. And for anyone who might not know, it's Aetna is the managed care organization that works with the Department of Human Services and kids in foster care. And okay, here's a question I feel like our audience might have. So, say I am a certified foster family, and I see Susie on the website, and I read her narrative, and I think she's a great fit for my family. So you should probably place her in my home next week, right?
Families are, when they read about those kids, they get so excited. If there's a youth that likes to fish and camp and they like to fish, they just think, oh, this is, we can be so supportive, and they can be such a good part of our family. But it is a slow process, and because we want to be very careful and make sure make sure it's a good match. And the other thing is, when families first inquire, the families worker and the youth worker, they have 15 days from the time to inquiry to research the home study, research the information about the youth. Those two workers work together before they get back with the family. I know some families, they inquire, and then I get an email the next day and say, hey, nobody's got back with me. And I remind them that, they have up to 15 days to get back with them. And it's because before they get them any more excited, they want to make sure that it's a youth that meets what the family has talked about, that they would like to have a part of their family.
And our narratives are about 2 paragraphs, I would say.
Yes.
And no one is trying to hide any information, but we're definitely limited by what is confidential and what should be shared with the public.
Yes. We don't share like medical information or abuse, neglect history. We're really careful to protect the youth. We don't talk about where they
what part of the state,
where they go to school, But if you're interested in the youth, by the information that you do read, and your worker, the family's worker connects them with the youth worker, the worker is going to tell them much more and be much more transparent about that youth.
So the family may have there may be a point where they say, yeah, I think it's still a good fit, or doesn't sound like a good fit for us, or my worker could say that. But I think also the youth may learn more about me and say, ooh, you live way out in the country, I don't want to do that, or something, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So we love to get excited. We love when families get excited, but we just want to remind everybody that it's a slower process because we want that great match.
Correct.
What else would you want our audience to know as they visit this website, other than it's a new site, it's growing, we're going to be adding to it every day?
Well, I think some families, they hear about this and they might think, this sounds really exciting, but they're really not sure yet. And there is a page on our website. It's called Adoption, if we can go to that page. And it talks about the adoption process and some frequently asked questions about the process. And that will help families that are pondering whether it's the right thing for them. It will be a little bit more information for them to, as they help consider whether they want to go forward after seeing that picture of that kid and reading about him. That it talks more about the process.
Yeah, there it is. And you know, I think if you get what you know about adoption from television or media, that's not always adoption from foster care. Foster care adoption is very different than infant or international adoption. Let's throw out a quick FAQ. How much does it cost to adopt a kid from foster care?
There is no cost to adopting a youth from foster care. When you're getting your home certified, if they're not already certified, there might be minimal cost, like if they need some safety standards, like
Smoke
fire
detectors,
extinguishers. Yeah. But minimal cost and no cost for adopting an older youth or sibling group through foster care. No.
And will I have support after adoption, like in terms of insurance and things like that?
Yes, the state will provide, that child will continue to receive services and in many cases subsidy.
And that is till 18 and beyond, right?
Yes.
Yes. So a lot of adoptive parents, their children have the medical card as their adoption subsidy. You can make that secondary to your family insurance. There's a lot of different ways to do that, but a lot of that is covered even post-adoption.
Correct.
So we want to make sure people know that. What else should people know as this website becomes more public?
Again, I just want to mention again that that's not the only kids that are adoption eligible. I'm continuing to get this information from workers. We add them every week, if not every day. I mean, really.
It's true.
And so if they're interested to, continue to check back on the website. If they want to learn more about this process than is explained on the website, I would be glad to talk to them. Feel free to call Mission West Virginia. I'll be glad to answer any questions they have about it.
Because not every family is going to foster before they adopt. I mean, that's not always their intention, right?
Correct.
Some families want to find a child that is eligible to be adopted now for a variety of reasons.
Yes.
Yes. Now, in West Virginia, you still have to foster for 6 months till you can finalize that adoption, right?
Correct.
So it's foster care, but that legal risk element is not there, where you are waiting to see if reunification happens.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So I think we have tried to kind of arm our audience with all of the basic information, but we really hope that people will visit the website, which is adoptedwvchild.org. And there are lots of resources on there, and that we hope that you would reach out to us through our phone or email that is also on there. Again, it's new. We are really hopeful that we are going to find families for West Virginia's waiting youth, and encourage everyone to visit that. And my guest has been Cheryl Salamanca. This is her new project, and we're going to continue to work on that. This has been another episode of Mission West Virginia, and we hope to see you next month.